Dr. Schimler, I think when you're ready, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. You can I can hear the beeps when people are logging in. Welcome to everyone, and good evening to the teachers, the community members, the undergraduate students, the master's degree students from Randolph, the parents, faculty, church members, school administrators that have been able to join us today. We have some of our college supervisors with us this evening as well. And you're about to experience a very engaging presentation. I would like to welcome Ivana Ross and two gentlemen, Amir Funderburk and Miles Luster. So everybody give a wave. Ivana Ross is the executive director and founder of the Sparrow's Nest, Inc. in Greensboro, North Carolina, established in October 2008. In 2014, Ivana left her job as senior marketing consultant to follow her passion. You are going to experience that passion this evening. Many organizations have recognized Ivana for her dedication to the youth in the Greensboro area. She received national recognition from the Rosalind S. Jaffe Award for Community Service, the Entercom President's Club Award, and the McDonald's Rhymes of Triumph Award, as well as many other awards and recognitions, all well-deserved. I would like to share information posted on her website about the Black Suit Initiative. In 2016, the Sparrow's Nest, Inc. launched their new all-male program, the Black Suit Initiative. Ivana worked tirelessly to design a program which highlights opportunities for young Black men in the community to explore their strengths, their passion, and their duty to their community. We have two young men with us tonight, Amir and Miles, who will share their experiences as part of this program. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you a very good friend and a strong advocate for all of our youth, Ivana Ross.
Thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. What an absolute pleasure it is to come home via Zoom. It's so wonderful to see so many tiny little faces from my hometown, including my mom and dad, Harry and Consuela Woods. I would like to thank the Randolph College Education Department, Campus Events, and the Office of Alumni and Alumni Relations for the opportunity to speak on ways to empower young Black males and provide you with a firsthand perspective from young Black men on what skill sets they believe are necessary for educators and mentors to possess in order to develop strong leaders. In early 2016, my nonprofit organization was still known as the Chosen 50. I worked with 50 middle and high school young men of different races, but mostly Black students from high crime areas. I gave them this scenario. You are all inhabitants of a planet in a faraway galaxy. Your leader has decided she wants to overthrow the United States government and eventually take over the world. In order to do this, however, you're going to have to learn as much as you can about the Earth's inhabitants. I had them all imagine they were assigned to observe young Black males. As part of their research and observations, these aliens were told to watch the local and national news, listen to their music, scroll social media, watch TV shows, go to their schools, walk the halls, and come back and report to the leader with adjectives about their discoveries. Hands went up around the room, all yelling out their responses to what they felt their report would be to their planet's leaders. Leader, creative, successful, poised, caring, loving, mentors. Who am I kidding? Of course, that was not what they said. Here's how it shaped up instead. Hands enthusiastically went up around the room, yelling out their responses quicker than I can write. And this is what they said instead. Criminals, drug dealers, incarcerated, materialistic, hustlers, lazy, cheaters, sexually active, thugs, uneducated, liars, profane, creative. Rappers, poor, loud, athletic, hated, and endangered. Not once did I tell them to use negative words. It wasn't until description number 11 that I heard my first positive word. 4 years later, 3 weeks ago, I gave my middle school students the same scenario. Fewer descriptive words, but the same ones from the list from 4 years ago. With the exception of this year, they added judged, hunted, executed. One young man said, "I wouldn't want to be the alien who would have to come here and try to fit in as a black male on Earth." But honey, isn't that what you do every day? Yeah, it is, and it's hard. One high school student said during our book discussion that he feels he has to make himself look smaller when he walks into the store. This tall, robust, gentle soul said he can't be like others who walk confidently around. He doesn't make eye contact. He doesn't carry a bag with him, even if he's coming from working out, because he doesn't want to be targeted. Another tall young man said in his job at the grocery store, he feels he has to lower his voice to speak so he's not scaring white people. This comes from a young man with a white mom. Every young man in that room has been given a speech by their parents on how to survive in America. And unless you're a young black male, we can't say, "Oh, I understand," because we can't. Don't minimize their plight with a simple "I understand." Who would really be able to understand what it's like to exist in a world where you feel the vast majority of people hate you or are afraid of you? Or that horrible cliche I still hear, "I don't see color, I just see people." The world is filled with color. Color is what lets me know if I'm making lemonade or eating a slice of key lime pie. Color lets me know if I'm biting into a tart Granny Smith apple or Red Delicious. It's the color of leaves that signal the season. It's okay to see color. We're all different, but we need to become a country, a classroom, and a community that sees color, but doesn't allow the color of one's skin to be the determinant to the quality of education, job opportunities, or just merely a peaceful existence. Young men of color shouldn't have to shrink to fit in, but should be allowed to stand tall, embracing their rich heritage of songs, dance, art, culture, struggles, and triumphs. Unfortunately, Black men are too busy wrestling with their struggles that triumph can sometimes feel out of reach. In a study released in 2018, a new analysis of 20 years of census data on 20 million children and their parents offers this sobering fact. Black boys are the least likely of any group to climb out of poverty and the most likely to fall into it. That's true if they're born into poverty or wealthy. If I were a Black male, I'd have to ask, is there hope for me at all? And my response is yes. We wouldn't be sitting here in these little boxes if we didn't have hope. Hope is simply defined as a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. What are you expecting from them? Not all SAG, but for those who do, are you preparing them for their careers by telling them to pull up their pants? Not in front of everyone in the room, but having a private conversation on the importance of being appropriately dressed. That their brains are more important than the brand of boxers. Not all say this, but are you correcting your students when they say, "I seen," instead of "I saw"? Is it easier for you just to let it slide because that's just how they talk, or that's their way of communicating, that's their culture? Would it be okay for your child? If not, then it's not okay for them either. As educators, mentors, family, friends, we must hold students accountable for academic, social, and moral excellence. Are you up for the accountability challenge? Miles?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miles Luster. I'm a junior at Grimsley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina. And we were asked to develop a speech for all of you. And we were also asked, what are some characteristics possessed by some of our favorite teachers? Although the list was long, we came up with a simple ABC list of characteristics we believe every great teacher should possess. A, accountability, B, believability, and C, consistency. Today, I would like to talk briefly on accountability. From the moment students walk into the room, you must always have your game face on. Communicate with your students on day one about your expectations and do not let them forget them. Don't ever let students believe homework is optional. I always hear teachers say, If you don't want to do the work, then you get an F. At that moment, you have told the students you have given up on them, and you will move on to students who really want to do the work. I believe, however, it is choice of the teachers as to whether they are willing to go the extra step to help students understand the importance of completing their assignments. They must understand incompletion could have a heavy impact in their future. And as a good teacher, you must care enough about each student to ensure no one chooses the wrong path. You know how parents can get stressed out after they ask you to do something and you don't do it soon enough? They say, never mind, I'll just do it. Don't start that habit with your students. It may be easier for you to let students off the hook, but that sends a message that you don't believe we can complete the task. The task may be difficult for some, but everyone should still be accountable to try their hardest to complete their task. There has not been anyone who will be as great a teacher as you all are going to be. Your student may be coming from years of having teachers not holding them accountable for completing assignments. Now it's your turn and your task to change that. Don't let teachers who may be bitter, tired, and frustrated influence you on how you should hold your students accountable. You set that standards. If you do not set the standard and expectation, then as a country, we will fail. In the United States, African American males' reading proficiency levels begin to drop by the 8th grade. Are you going to believe that African American males cannot become good readers? Or are you going to find more books that encourage us to read more? Some may say you should not give more attention to Black males, but Black males have been getting the wrong kind of attention for far too long. Something must change. Did you know that 80% of males labeled for special education assistance are African American? We don't need your pity. We need you to hold us accountable for what you have assigned. That will prepare us for the next level in life, whether we go to college or jump straight into the career field. Please do not assume a student needs accountability issues. They are probably not held accountable at home. Having accountability as a habit is needed because letting people slide is way too easy. We are holding you accountable to hold us accountable. I have seen many teachers fail to hold their African American students accountable for the fear of how the students may retaliate. So it is easier to stay silent. Remember, students are like jewels. With a good polish, they are very valuable. You will spend hours carefully developing a lesson plan designed to assist us in our maturity and intellectual growth. Don't let your hard work go to waste. Don't be bothered by how mean a student may look when they enter a classroom, or how their hair or how their clothing may look, even who they may associate themselves with. As the great teacher you are going to be, they should know you genuinely want them to succeed. Never stop expecting greatness. Your classroom should be a judgment-free zone. Students should know that even if a task is difficult, you will be happy to help them see their task towards completion. They should always know that you have their backs and that you believe in them.
Here I am, walking from board to board, suspended over 40 feet in the air, walking above the tallest trees in the forest. There was no looking back and definitely no looking down. I was determined to finish the high ropes course. This was my first time doing this. Others had stopped halfway, but I was determined to finish. I believed I could finish because others believed in me. You see, 2 summers ago was the first time I had been away from my mom for an extended period of time. This was a week-long outdoor camp with no electricity, no phone, no AC, and no doors. There was no doors on our cabin, and I was ready to go home. On that first night, I was ready to go home on that first night, but Missy Vanga wouldn't let me. Just hold on another day. I felt the same way on day 2, but she encouraged me to hold on. She believed I could make it through the entire week. She believed I was a leader who just hadn't tapped into my inner gates yet. So she pushed me gradually so I could find the strength on my own. I was the youngest at this camp. Even before coming to the camp. I was never vocal. I was a hard worker, but I wasn't setting the world on fire. So the week was almost over, and we were set to do the high ropes course. We had the option of staying on the ground and holding the ropes or climbing to new heights. So I chose to climb the ladder and go on the highest level of the course and reach my journey. On that day, I found my inner leader, and I haven't turned back since. That's why I'm even on this Zoom call today, because Missy Vayner believed in me. She believed I would be a great representative for the organization. She chose to never see me as a shy kid who rarely stepped up to volunteer for anything. But she chose to see me as a leader. She knew I could become. She believed in me. When my knees were obviously shaking from way up above, no one said, "Come on down, you're too scared." Everyone encouraged me to keep going. They believed in me. They believed I could complete the course. If you want to be a great teacher, then believe in all your students. Believe all your students have the capability to achieve greatness. Don't believe someone will be greater just because of the community they live in or who their parents are. Take the time to ask them what they want to achieve in life and try to help them ignite the fire. Sure, it takes more work, but in the long run, you can feel good knowing you played a role in helping someone achieve their goals. Sure, it takes more work, but in the long run, you should be grateful that you helped somebody achieve their goal. If a student wants to be a farmer, buy him a packet of seeds. If she wants to be a barber, give her an article on owning her own barbershop. Believing in someone doesn't cost a lot, but your belief in someone is priceless. You don't have to tell someone every day you believe in them. It's your actions which matter. Every time I was asked to participate in an activity such as this one, Missy Vayner is saying she believes in me. When I'm asked to serve as a peer mentor or be an ambassador for the program, I know I'm in that role because I earned it and people believed in me. Believe in every student. If he or she doesn't have a goal in life, help them find their way and let them know you believe in their ability to be a world changer. As teachers, you're the one holding the ropes as your students climb to greatness. Your job is important. To some, you may be the only encouragement they receive. But remember, sometimes you have to hold on tight to the ropes and help guide them, and other times you have to let go so they can advance. Don't just believe in students who appear to be the most confident in class, but give your attention to the most quiet ones too. The ones like me. Now that I have climbed among the trees, I'm ready to soar among the stars. I'd like to leave you with this quote from psychologist Gordon Newfield. Children learn best when they like their teacher and they think their teacher likes them. Believe and be consistent.
Today's C will represent more than just consistency, but creativity and change. As we approach Thanksgiving, I thought I would utilize this portion with a cooking analogy. As with every year, people will pull out cookbooks and online recipes and attempt to make the dish that will be raved about for years to come. One of three things will happen. It will be a success, it will be a total flop, or it won't be perfect, but you can throw some icing on it or some gravy and no one will ever know the difference. Then there are those like my late granny, Alma, who I don't think ever used a cookbook. She made her meals from the heart. She knew the right pinch, perfect sprinkle to bring about the right outcome. We never saw her failures or the batches thrown away as she reached cooking perfection, but Granny gauged her cooking by the right consistency. She knew when to stir the pot and she knew when she could walk away. I may not have learned how to cook all of her famous recipes before she passed away, but I realized as I wrote this speech that over the past 12 years, I was writing my own recipe. Sometimes people see the end results, but don't understand how below the surface there were missteps and triumphs, heartaches, graduations, sweat, tears, victories, and even tragedies. Dr. Schimler shared with you a little of my background with you, but she didn't mention that I grew up in the inner city, because I didn't. I grew up in Boonesboro and went to school at Jefferson Forest. She didn't say I grew up in a single parent household and didn't know my father, because that's not my story either. I was blessed with two successful parents who cared and provided for me and always illustrated their love for humanity in their giving to others. So who am I to move to Greensboro and decide to launch a nonprofit in 4 of the largest public housing communities? I'm merely someone with a love for children who embraced her calling. I had a successful program, youth department program in an inner city church in Greensboro, but I decided that I wanted to branch out even more. I was blessed to experience some of the finer things in life and felt other people needed to experience some of those things too, like ballroom dancing, culinary arts, painting, wire sculpting. And I didn't believe that a socioeconomic status should be a hindrance. So in 2008, I launched a mobile service, the Sparrow's Nest, which went into these 4 public housing communities with this custom wrapped van. The housing authority wasn't always accommodating to let us into the community centers on Saturdays, so on some days we set up ballroom dancing on dilapidated basketball courts or in parking lots. When we did our unveiling, we summoned the residents with authentic African drummers. We had an opera singer, the mayor, and local artists were there to celebrate with us. Once a month, we partnered with local businesses and volunteers to provide free services to children in these 4 communities. Collectively, we were providing services to several hundred students each month. Each month, postcard flyers were distributed to doors to let families know when the bright yellow van would be in their community. My heart was always so full as children ran towards the van as I pulled in, blasting our Sparrow's Nest theme song on the speaker overhead. We were the ice cream truck of education. In addition to pulling out easels and paints and wires and school supplies, one of the programs we offered from the van was a reading program. We had developed a partnership with the theme park Wet and Wild, which provided us with theme park tickets to give away to children who participated in our reading program. Each week, the van would provide children with books, many with characters who looked like them. When we returned the following month, students would have to summarize the books they read, either verbally or written, to be entered to win theme park tickets. We gave away over 500 books during one summer and 30 pairs of theme park tickets. Things were going well, but I wasn't satisfied. How are we making a sustainable impact by visiting a community once a month for a couple of hours? So we decided to streamline our efforts and create the Chosen 50. Working with administrators, teachers, and local business owners, I created a panel to interview middle and high school students from public housing and high crime areas to be a part of this leadership initiative. I recruited kids from each community to help me pass out over 1,000 flyers in search of the perfect 50. I absolutely had no manual, no recipe to follow, but a heart to provide 50 young men and women the opportunity to dream beyond their communities. Students lined up and filled out applications to be a part of this organization that barely had a mission statement. At that time, we had 3 volunteers, but we were committed to spending most of our weekends changing lives. We chose our first 50, designed uniform hoodies, had a professional photo shoot, and anxiously awaited our first meeting. I assumed these 50 young people would be just as excited as I was to be in a room filled with potential new friends. In my misguided calculations, I assumed they would all get along. They all lived in public housing, so why not? I think back on that perception and I cringe at how insensitive and elitist my thoughts were. They quickly educated me on that day that South Side didn't affiliate with the North. The Lost North didn't affiliate with the West. One community was known for being thieves. The other community, they all had bad odors. And the list went on as to why the Chosen 50 was a bad idea. We provided transportation to these students, and I had unknowingly put my bus driver potentially in harm's way, knowing that there was a war between the city's quadrants. Well, I could have chosen to work just with the amicable quadrants, or I could make them get along. I chose the latter because, in my opinion, there was no reason why they shouldn't get along. So I made them work together on teams, building bridges out of newspapers, having a party and giving each team a recipe to make a dish to contribute to the celebration. Within a matter of weeks, new friendships were formed, and teams no longer had to be forced, they were embraced. So I took it a step further and decided to do a competition among the teams. The first year, I had each team select a candidate to run for mayor of Greensboro. Each team did their research by conducting surveys in the community on what Greensboro residents would like to see happen in their city. How could we make it better? The information collected assisted their mayoral candidate in preparing campaign slogans and speeches, which were delivered in local rec centers, and they solicited votes. We also encouraged people to follow our Facebook page and vote for their favorite candidate as well. The winning team won a substantial cash prize. Each year, our curriculum changes based upon the interest or what's happening locally or nationally. Another year focused on real life. They spoke with realtors, went to open houses, understood credit, went to car dealerships, filled out applications, went grocery shopping, and did price comparisons. Each team worked collectively with the life scenario assigned and created an average of a 15-page PowerPoint presentation on how they would manage and succeed in the real world. Another year, we had a partnership with the United Bank of Switzerland, and months were spent following the stock market, selecting their own companies to follow, and making presentations on the return of their fictitious investments. Later that year, teams also created their own small businesses, created business plans, and had a prototype made of their product. As our popularity grew, a teacher recommended we accept some high school students from one of the most notorious public housing communities in the city. These were bright young men who were obviously headed down the wrong path, and the teacher felt they would experience success being in this program, so we accepted them. Although rough around the edges, they fit in and offered new perspectives. Then a new young man moved into their community from a large city up north and started a gang, and immediately they were drawn to the quick cash and the glamour of the big city hustle. They went from perfect attendance to sporadically attending, sometimes even coming high. I fought to keep them. I checked in on them throughout the week, stood outside of trap houses so that they would know I was watching them. I even tried to help the young man who started this chaos to get back into school, to re-enroll, to get a GED. I had to make the decision of continuing to fight to keep these 8 to 10 young men who would leave our meetings sometimes and beat up homeless people and sell drugs on social media? Or do I protect the integrity of the program and keep the ones committed, keep the ones who are committed to the program and keep them safe? I chose the safety of others and to honor their commitment to doing the best they could to provide themselves with brighter futures. Before dismissing the young men from the program, I had a conversation with them to ensure them that my love for them would never change. And when they were ready to get on the right path, I would be there. Our youth members had developed a very extensive code of conduct that they had agreed to follow and had signed, and I had to adhere to those policies set forth by these young people. Although these young men were genuinely disappointed, I reminded them that they made the choice in their actions to separate from our program. I never stopped talking to them. In fact, when I did community visits, I always made sure I visited them. They were the ones who watched out for me if things were about to go wrong in the community. They would always tell me when it was time to leave. Although I couldn't work with them in the traditional sense, I decided to utilize them as my community advisors. New gangs were popping up all around Greensboro, and I enlisted the help of these young gang members and their friends to advise me on developing an all-male leadership program. I had several meetings with gang members from different quadrants of the city and asked how we could have saved them from going down this path. I want to believe most children don't have a goal of becoming a gang member and potentially dying young. There have to be other goals, other options, and they shared those with me. Sometimes in a room where they were strapped with guns, I was not afraid because the insight I gathered from them I knew would be helpful in building this program, and they were very happy to oblige. Prior to meeting with them, I had members of the Chosen 50 help me to conduct surveys in some of their communities. We asked 61 middle and high school students from one of the highest crime areas in the city some of these questions. The first question was, other than the president, a rapper, or an athlete, name a famous living African-American male you would consider a positive role model. 92% had no response. 6% responded with these answers: Denzel Washington, Al Sharpton, Kevin Hart, and Steve Harvey. I also ask, in Greensboro, name an African-American male you consider to be successful and a positive role model. 43% had no response. 16% listed family members, but no one listed their father. And finally, in Greensboro, name a non-African-American male you consider to be successful and a positive role model. 98% had no response, and only 2% listed an educator. They all agreed they lacked access to positive role models in their communities. Their parents or grandparents had minimal education and didn't expose them to anything outside of their communities. They wanted to know how to own their own franchises, how to make sound investments, interviewing techniques, management opportunities. They all said it didn't matter if it were a male or a female, white or black, just someone who was consistent and committed to seeing them succeed. Unfortunately, everyone who advised me now is either in prison or has served time in prison or have been killed by gun violence. But they still appreciate the fact when I do see them that they know that I still believe. I had one young man just get out of prison last week. In his 3 years in prison, I wrote him and sent him books to encourage him when he got released. He said, "I'll contact you within 72 hours of release," and he did. He said he's ready to be fitted for his suit so he can look for a job. Our suit closet is always open, no matter how far they've strayed. These young men helped me shape an organization that has seen 11 young men graduate from high school, 4 are still in college, with one launching his own successful clothing line, 1 received an associate degree, 5 are working full-time, and tragically, 1 was killed earlier this year by gunfire. We took what we learned over these 8 years as the Chosen 50, mixed with the valuable insight from these young men, and created the Black Suit Initiative. This leadership and community engagement program allows young men in middle and high school the opportunity to improve academic performance, explore career interest, and participate in positive team building exercises. The successful completion of this program, the program modules, allows the young men the opportunity to earn their full Black suit at the completion of the first year. Young men are selected to be in the program through an application and interview process conducted by our youth ambassadors. Members can remain in the organization until they graduate from high school, and suits are replaced as they are outgrown. Our program currently works with 30 middle and high school young men representing over 20 triad schools. We have students from single-parent household, 2-parent household, public housing, affluent communities, and everything in between. Since we began in 2016, our competitions have been more challenging. Several years ago, we hosted a community-wide presidential speech and debate. Actual political officials and community members were in attendance as these young men debated on topics of education, coal ash, and homelessness. On most normal months, we meet 3 Saturdays. Every first Saturday, we work with a local predominantly white church where our office is located. Together, we prepare food boxes for over 50 families. The students also manage an internal and external food pantry on site and prepare over 100 bags of food each month for elementary students to take home on the weekends. The first weekend in December, they will host their 4th annual 24-hour Locked In to Lockout Hunger Food Drive. Before COVID, we would all stay in a gym for 24 hours with no food so that they could experience on a small scale what these elementary students experience regularly. Over the past 3 years, they have collected over 15,000 non-perishable food items and seek to collect an additional 5,000 next month. Because of the pandemic, we will utilize social media with their live videos from their homes, urging people to drop off these items as opposed to being in a gym. Earlier this year, we developed a partnership with NASDAQ with their local vice president, who is working with them monthly on investments and will be introducing them to successful leaders from across the globe. This past Saturday, we kicked off the lunch appointment. This virtual lunch allows young men the opportunity to interview a man from the community who is working in a career path they wish to pursue. This weekend, we had a meteorologist, a park superintendent, an Army veteran, and Miles was able to speak with a professor of physics and astronomy from High Point University. These one-on-one Zoom sessions with diverse guests, give them the opportunity not only to learn the prerequisites for pursuing their dream job, but it allows them to feel comfortable speaking to people of all ages, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds. We will continue our public speaking techniques in 2021 when we once again team up with a local high school speech and debate team. The goal is to have a mock trial at the end of the school year because I am putting some of hip hop culture on trial for manslaughter. You may remember Michelle Carter was found guilty for sending her suicidal boyfriend a barrage of text messages urging him to kill himself, which he actually did. I believe what some of these artists are doing with the platform they've been given is killing our young people who try to emulate their lifestyle. We will examine music, clothing, and media to see if this is entertainment or a criminal act. I believe in getting to the heart of the matter by choosing topics which are relevant to them, which is why we have book discussions with books selected by them, with topics and characters with whom they can relate. This year, they will collectively read 10 novels. Our high school students are currently reading a college level book, Between the World and Me, and our middle school students are reading a high school book, Dear Martin. In order to make reading fun, I try to incorporate an activity in support of the book. Last year, we went to see the movie The Hate U Give after they read the book and passed an exam. Due to COVID, field trips have ceased, but I contacted author Greg Neary on Instagram to see if he would speak to our young men about his 2 books we were reading at the time, and he readily accepted the invitation to do a Zoom discussion. So in an effort to be creative with the books we're currently reading, I decided to do something different. I had them record a video. Dear Martin is a book that deals with a 17-year-old Black male who was targeted by the police while trying to help a friend in an affluent neighborhood. In his anger, he decided to start a journal writing his feelings to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., telling him his struggles as a young Black man in America. I had an open discussion with all the young men about their lives in America, and from their perspectives, I took that information and collaborated with one of our seniors who is an incredible poet, and we wrote an open letter to America and recorded a video. With an exception of a few volunteers, you will be the first ones to see this before I launch this on social media tomorrow. Before I close, like any proud mama, I would like to share a few pictures of my babies. So if we could put a few of the slides up at this moment. As you can see, the Sparrow's Nest started with that yellow van. And the children that you see over in the field, those were the first ones who told me basically that the Chosen 50 was a really bad idea. But things improved, and these are some of the photo shoots, and you will see the young people standing in front of the car. That was the car that they decided they were going to apply for. And you will see the African drummers, and I can't see what's there. Oh, and that was one of our wire baskets that one of the young students made. You can proceed to the next one. Those are my community advisors. They were the gang members that, unfortunately, that's a few of them that we had to dismiss, but they were extremely valuable, and I am always grateful to them because without them, I wouldn't have had the insight to create the Black Suit Initiative. On the left, when we had our presidential speech and debate, we, of course, went all out with our graphics as we try to do with everything. We just don't try to do it halfway. So we had a stage with the screens behind it, and we had the podiums. We had red, white, and blue balloons. We passed out these flyers to the community so that we could invite them. And then on the right, you will see the gentleman who was running for mayor. He actually was the one who was elected as mayor. And so they all had a photo shoot as well. And this is one of his photo shoots. These are just some of the pictures. This was the top right was our first fashion show fundraising event where we had males in the community to model. These had to be males who were making a positive impact in the community. And the young man in the front is also one of our poets who graduated. And on the left, where the Serving Greensboro picture is, that's a few of them volunteering at the food pantry. The lower left, you will see those are a couple of the students from the speech and debate team from Northwest High School in Greensboro. Beside that, we had a team who, when we had the competition of trying to create your own small business, there was one group who was interested in starting a landscaping company. So we actually had them to work with a landscaping company for the day so that they could see what it felt like firsthand. The next picture shows the external food pantry in a partnership with the Eagle Scouts. The young lady in the picture built the food pantry called the Blessing Box, and our young men are the ones that are responsible every week to making sure that there's food in the pantry. And you will see the last picture. This is a landscaping team, and the name of their company was going to be Buzz Cuts. So I paid to have all of their logos designed so that when they made their presentation to a panel of 8, that everything was very professionally done. And these are just a few fun things. We always try to make sure that we have a lot of fun. The top left is when they were about to walk in for their presidential speech and debate. We also had a partnership with the city of Greensboro. So you will see the young people on the left. We launched a website called the Hip Hub, which was a website that provided a resource for youth within the area of programs that were currently being offered during the summer. The middle is just a fun picture. The top right is just some kids that were getting together from really 5 different communities, and we used to work at the food pantry, and so that was them. They used to do all the cooking. And then we also do leadership training at a camp, and this is the camp that Amir was talking about that he went to, where he found his leadership abilities. And we're going to go and we're going to see the video that I spoke of called My Black Skin. And the young man in this picture is Joey, who is the poet that I spoke of in my presentation. And based upon what he wrote and what his brothers said, this is the video that they did.
Time.
Valuable. What? The black skin on my body, however, is not a threat.
I am not a warning sign to lock the car door when I approach.
My skin should not dictate whether I should survive in this world.
I shouldn't be afraid to go outside.
But I am.
I don't want to become the next victim.
But I could be.
I want to live.
I want to live to fight the injustices which plague our nation.
I want to live so my ancestors know they didn't die in vain.
We're still fighting.
Hundreds of years later, and we're still fighting. But I still believe one day we will win.
True love will conquer. We will persevere and overcome.
Through determination,
We will rise. For now, I'm waiting for the day.
that my black skin
Doesn't make me.
a target.
Thank you so much for showing that. I'll close with this.
De cómo se usa, y la verdad que estas planillas todas las marcas las tienen, y si no las tienen las deberían tener, pero las grandes marcas las tienen, son fundamentales.
I'll close with this. The world is changing every day, and sometimes we have to throw away the batter of bad thinking and start from scratch. Don't be so proud that you can't walk away from a bad idea and try something new. Students will see your genuineness and consistency to help them, and they'll forgive your mistakes. A recipe would never come together without blending. A successful program comes with the blending of your ideas and intellect with those of your students. As I always tell my students, I work for them, and what's important to them is important enough for me to build my curriculum around it. Thank you so much for your time and for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ivana. That was wonderful. We're going to open up the session for questions, either for Ivana or for Amir or Miles to respond to. So I'm going to monitor the chat. If you would please type any questions or comments you have in the chat, I'll try to monitor the question and answer session.
Well, this is easy.
I know. Lots of kudos. I do have a question for the young men, and I guess I would like to know, what is the most powerful thing that you get from participating in these events, and what have you learned from it, and what have you gained from it?
So like, for me, it just builds my leadership skills, and also it helps me become a better speaker and stuff like that. And when we do like helping the homeless, food drops, it also like builds my credits for college. It's just a whole bunch of benefits that come with the group.
Thank you. Miles?
For me, it has helped me with when I first joined the Black Student Initiative 2 years ago, I actually knew only 2 people there. And I didn't want to talk to anyone. I wasn't an outgoing person then, but being in the Black Student Initiative, it has made me an outgoing person, and it's made my brotherhood grow, I guess. Yeah, I have more brothers.
Great, thank you. Another question from one of the participants was, and I'm reading from this list, is how does your family support you in this program?
Amir?
My family, like my mom, she's a great volunteer for the group. She comes almost every meeting. She supports it a lot. Like anytime I tell her I have a meeting, she's quick to go and take me.
Great.
She likes it as much as I do. Put it that way.
Thank you. And this one has to do with our inability to gather during COVID-19. How do you boys, or young men, I should say, keep the momentum going since you can't be in the group with your friends or socialize? How do you keep engaged?
We just recently have met face-to-face because we do have our food pantry. So of course they have to wear masks. I don't let them hug. It's hard because I'm a hugger. So we have tried to keep everyone as far apart as possible. We've done this for a couple of months, but we're getting ready to go back into quarantining them because the holidays are approaching and I don't want anyone to get sick. Prior to that, we have used Zoom. So we've had book discussions on Zoom. We did a kind of like a pen pal program as well because young people don't like to write outside of a text message. So I challenged them to have a pen pal. So I selected a pen pal for each one of them to write at least one letter. So they did keep in contact that way. A lot of them have developed friendships outside of the group, and so they do remain in constant contact on video games, on through text messages and through social media. So it really is a family, and it has been difficult, but we're going to have an end of the year Christmas party. They don't even know all the specifics yet, but everyone's going to get a box. We're going to have a celebration, and so I'm going to have a box delivered to their houses so that we can celebrate together and eat the same foods and things of that sort. And so we have to be creative because they're in front of a screen all the time, and a lot of them hate it. So we have to make it as engaging and as fun as possible.
And a question for you, Avena, do you have any plans to expand this program into other areas?
Yes, I would like to expand in Lynchburg. I would like to come home and do that. We did actually have a program that expanded into a middle school in Jamestown, North Carolina, but of course COVID hit, and within a matter of a couple of months, we had to shut that program down. Not so sure that I want to be in a school anymore because there's so many parameters, and you know, we could only meet for 45 minutes, and really what we do takes hours. On average, I'm with these young men when we meet anywhere between 3 and 6 hours each Saturday. So it's really difficult to really have an impact within a 30, 40-minute time span.
Thank you. Somebody asked if the information shared from the ABC presentation could be given out as a bullet point handout. I think that was Gloria.
Ooh, I'll have to work on that. Yes, I will.
Great, great. And this is a question I think for Miles and Amir from one of our education students. What is the most valuable lesson you would say you've learned and have been able to share with others through being in this program?
For me, it's just like, you gotta be confident. Being in this group taught me a lot of how to be confident, you know? Because say if I did this, I wasn't confident before I did this, but you know, practice and Ms. Vanna helped me out. My confidence built back up, and I, you know, did my thing. And also just don't bully people, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Teaching me like racism still exists, and myself can stop it. Everybody in the Black Student Initiative can help stop racism completely.
Great, thank you, Amir. Miles?
I would have to say that don't second guess yourself, because I still do that a little, and I try to stop it, but second guessing yourself can really hurt you. And sometimes it could help, but it mainly hurts you because you might have the right answer at one point and then you change your mind and then you get it wrong.
Great, thank you. Here's another question for Miles and Amir. How are the academic experiences in your school? Do you feel equally challenged and welcome into all classes? For instance, advanced classes. And what advice, this is a long question, and what advice do you have for many future teachers in this Zoom to create a welcoming and challenging curriculum for Black males?
Everybody can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I can say I feel pretty welcome in all my classes. I mean, I only had the problem like one time in 6th grade where it was just the teacher. It felt like the teacher didn't like me as much. But other than that, all my classes are very welcoming. And for the second question is, to me, a good teacher, like, and also academics, like, just push them as hard as you can. Don't, don't put all your focus into that student, but push them as much as you can, enough to get them where they need to be. And don't give up at all.
Good advice. Miles?
I have not felt out of, well, I probably could say I have, because there's this stereotype that goes around that says advanced classes are for the white kids and the other classes are for the other races, you know? And I've always been in the advanced classes, and some people say, "Oh, Miles, you're in the white classes." And when teachers try to make a reference, I kind of feel out of place, because there's some things that Black students don't. There's some things that Black students don't experience like white kids, if you know what I'm saying. Because that like throws me off and gets me less engaged. But if there's something, this is answering the second question. If there's something that engages both students, that probably will allow both students to maybe remember what they're learning better, probably. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And here's a question. How can someone in the community or teachers support, I guess, this initiative, or maybe students, maybe Black males in the school? So how about, like, if there's a community member, how can community members support Black male students? Is there anything that the community could do better to offer more support?
I can say that, you know, half of the volunteers we have are educators, and they are white educators and female white educators. That's who we have helping these young men. I think that there are great programs throughout the city. It's just a matter of looking into those organizations to see how you can tap in. And just like the young man, my community advisor said, it doesn't matter the race, it matters the consistency. And so these teachers and the volunteers who work with these young men have been with me for years. And I think that's what's important. And kind of tying into the last person and kind of what Miles said, we have to break that stereotype that being intelligent and articulate is really just for white people. And I think that the Black Student Initiative allows everyone to feel like they're important, their input is important. Having them read books that are challenging to them. I'm not going to say, well, we just won't read it all. We'll just read a few pages. No, I mean, the book they're reading now is extremely difficult. And so we need to push that. We need to say that, you know, being smart is cool. And Miles and Amir are a great representation of what we're about. We have Miles wants to work for NASA one day. And then we have Amir who likes to work with the digital sides of things. So we have so many people who in the program who want to be vets and a variety of different things. And so we really try to encourage them, just like with this lunch appointment we have with the meteorologist. If that's what you want to be, let me go and I'll find someone for you. So no matter how big the task, we want to make sure that everybody is given the opportunity to explore outside of the comfort zone, explore outside of what they believe Black males should fall within this. These are your careers for Black males, and then everybody else can be here. We want everybody, we want them to experience the greatest.
Thank you. And here is another question for Amir and Miles. You are doing a great job. You're great at presenting, so bravo to you. How might you use your time in this program to help positively influence younger boys? Do you mentor those who are younger than you?
Yeah, most of the time. Like the the students that are still in middle school that are just starting out, we mentor them a lot. Sometimes Miss Ivana even pairs us up with each other, and we have to help them out.
Thank you. Miles?
It's a yes for me also, because knowing I'm a junior at Grimsley, sometimes, and I'm friendly, so I talk to almost everyone. And usually it's the freshmen who are scared to like go around school talking to everyone. And I usually just say, just be yourself. This is high school. This is where you find out who you are, what you want to be. And Black Student Initiative has taught me that I can be who I am. And I like to transfer that over to younger people because it has made me who I am.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think we're getting down to our last question. Again, for Amir and Miles, do you feel there is a shortage of good role models for young Black males, or is this a stereotype? Who do you look up to as an example of character?
For that question, that's a tough one, for real, for real. It makes me think. Not necessarily a stereotype. It's just a large percentage Black males just don't have a role model, and that's just how it is, and you can't really do nothing about it. And for me, like a role model for me, my godfather. Yeah, he just I could say he does what he need to do. He's a good person overall.
Great. How about you, Miles? What's your response?
Yes, there is a shortage of role models for Black males. And my role models are the men in my family, not just one person, but the men in my family, such as my dad, uncle, and my older brother. I'm the youngest in the family. They teach me everything that I should be doing for my mom and my sister. And they teach me what I should do when I'm outside of the house and when I'm at school and everything. Yeah, they just teach me how I'm supposed to act in protecting the family name.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ivana and Miles and Amir. This has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, letting us have a little glimpse of the great things that you are doing and projecting into the future. You are the hope, I have to say. So, any last words from anyone?
Thank you so much. We really had a great time this evening. Thank you for being so attentive and so positive. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you for joining us. It's been a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Talk to you later, Ivana.
All right. Thank you. And my parents, bye.
I didn't see your dad. I only see your mom.
Yeah, I know he's like there he is. I can see he's over there.
He's over
I see
on
movement. There he is.
Hi, Mary. I haven't seen him, gosh, in about a year, I think it's been.
All right. Well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ivana. You take care. Thank you,
you.
Miles. Thank you,
so
Amir.
much.
Thank you, Lauren,
so much
for your help.
All
I
right,
learn
bye.
something new every time we do this.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.